Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 8 from the World of Presentations podcast, brought to you by 356 Labs. This podcast helps you write, design, and deliver better presentations based on our own experience and based on everything that we learned while working with some of the biggest brands in the world. My name is Boris, and in this episode, yet again, who is with me?
It's again Eva.
And today's topic is all about rehearsing. A lot of people asked us to do an episode on that one, so let's do an episode on that one.
Boris, I would say that you are wrong though. People don't ask us about rehearsing. They almost never think it's an important part of building your presentation.
I would agree. Then
let's say you can partially agree.
Yeah.
Because of some of the cases that and some of the clients that we've worked with, but in general, from my experience doing trainings and consulting, not always people are kind of anticipating that part with the rehearsing. And the first step, I would say, is to kind of explain also why, and that's what I always do, is to explain them why it's important to actually rehearse.
Okay, so let's spend some time talking about, hey, why are rehearsals important? So if we have to start with that one, where should we start?
Let's start with first the brand that you're representing, because when you're delivering a presentation, whether it's on stage or online, you're representing a brand. And by brand, I don't always mean the company that you're working in or the company that you're working at or the organization that you're part of. The brand can also be perceived as your name, because you go on stage and you deliver the presentation with your name behind it. So if you don't rehearse, what you put at risk is people to remember you as the person who delivered a bad presentation.
Yeah, and that is not something cool, I would say. You don't want to be associated with negative things. When people hear your name, only negative kind of connotations come into their minds. You probably don't want to do that. So
probably don't want to do that.
Okay, so I would add that every single time when you're presenting both online or in person, you are also dealing with people's time, right? And if you don't respect their time and if you don't show appreciation for that time by being prepared and being rehearsed, that is not cool. And the question, or I would put it this way, every single time when we describe this when we talk with our clients, is we normally say to them that what we are looking for to achieve is, after a presentation is over, if you ask somebody, would they want to go back in time and use that time that they were participating in your presentation or in your online call and use it for something else? If they say yes, well, that's a problem. But if they say no, that was so great that even if I had the opportunity to go back in time, I would still come and listen to that one. That is what you are aiming for, and rehearsals are for sure one of the tools that you should utilize to achieve that.
And maybe the third thing that a lot of people are actually missing also is the fact that when you deliver a presentation that is very well done, that presentation can open huge opportunities for you. As an example, we worked with Deloitte for an extremely important presentation that the general manager of one of the entities here in Bulgaria had. What happened was that after this presentation, he became a partner in Deloitte, which is a huge responsibility, but also opportunity that it's once in a lifetime. So opportunities are definitely something that you need to consider when you deliver presentations well. And it's the fact that another maybe story that we can share here is we worked with a company called Orbico. They're a huge distributor, huge logistics company. So they had to present in front of one of their biggest clients. And we worked with them towards a presentation. What happened is that after that meeting was over, the client said, we would be expecting you to deliver us every time a presentation that looks like this. That was the first comment. But the second thing is that they actually gave them the green light to realize all of the plans that they had for the next year. So every presentation that is delivered well can create humongous amount of opportunities that you might not be seeing at that particular moment.
Yeah, that is, and all of that is because you are well prepared, and good preparation means rehearsals. There is no great presentation out there that you consider great that hasn't been rehearsed. There is no way. It's just no way. So one more thing maybe to add here is that many people during trainings ask us, hey, how do I know whether or not I will fit in my time slot, in the time that people give me or the organizers give me? And if you think about it, well, that's yet just another reason why you want to rehearse, right? Because if you really think about it, a real rehearsal, the way you rehearse, is actually the way you are planning to deliver that presentation. And how hard is it for you to put a stopwatch or, I don't know, something like this next to your computer or somewhere around you so that you see when you start and you see how much time your presentation takes. This is during the rehearsal. The reason why you want to do it again is you'll be able to see and understand whether or not you will fit in your time slot, and you will understand that before you go on stage and not when you are already there. So yet another reason why you want to do that.
I would say a very common myth around rehearsing is that people say that they rehearse by just thinking what they are going to say. So I think it's a very, very important point to make. When you rehearse, you need to make sure that you are going to rehearse exactly what you're going to say, not what you think you might be saying. Just put a few points under the slide notes if you're using slides. Put a few points on what are the important points that you're going to make on these particular slides. And when you rehearse it the same way that you plan to actually say it. So that way you can see where you, for example, stop, because some of the ideas are not fully developed. You will see where you stop and where something doesn't actually sound the way you want it to be, and you will be able to fix it. And by fixing it, you will have a very clear idea in your head what you want to say on this particular point.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And again, you won't need to do that when you're on stage, when you're on the online call, when it's already too late, right? By the way, hopefully those sounds are not being heard and captured by our microphones, but something is definitely happening outside of this building that makes a ton of noise. Let's put it this way. Okay, so why else should you consider rehearsing, and why else should you spend the time which you don't have, right? Nobody has time, but still it's super important to rehearse it. Why would you do that? Well, many times you hear people when they present, they use a lot of ums, etc. And many times, at least with the clients that we work with, they ask us how should they remove it? How should they remove those? Well, the answer is by you understanding first that you are doing them. And how do you do that? Well, by you rehearsing the presentation and monitoring yourself for those. And once you do that, and once you see that these are happening, you start to attack them slowly but steadily, right? There are ways to do that, and we may get to that point in this episode, but maybe it will be in the next one. We'll see. But yet another reason why you want to see that, why we want to rehearse, in order for you to monitor whether or not you are using noise words, some type of fewer words, ums, etc. What else do we have? Why are there more reasons?
Of course, there are more reasons. So I'm sure that you've been at a presentation, whether it's offline or online, where somebody it's usually the people from big companies that are used to using the language of the corporation, which means they're using a lot of abbreviations, comparisons, or all types of cliches,
Jargon.
let's say, and all types of jargon that the thing is that the audience does not understand it.
Yeah.
First thing what happens is when you start speaking to the audience with abbreviations that they don't understand, if it lasts for a little bit longer, I would say people just stop listening because
Yeah.
they completely don't understand the topic that you're presenting. So
Scan for those.
scan for those. When you're rehearsing, what you can do is actually see where you're using abbreviations, and you can say, okay, so if I'm using that abbreviation, of course, if it's an internal, still important presentation, if it's an internal presentation and you know that your audience is aware with that abbreviation or that jargon that you're using, that might not be it might not be necessary to correct anything. But if you're presenting in front of people who are not at all familiar with those, make sure that you explain them. Like, for example, if you're presenting in front of a group of people who are not aware of what, okay, Boris, give an abbreviation that,
CRM.
okay, that are not
VPN.
aware of what CRM is. You can just very briefly say, okay, so CRM stands for,
Customer Relationship Management System. Or VPN.
and then you can use the abbreviation, but you have put, as we like to say, you have put everyone on the same level. So everyone in the room now knows what CRM is.
Yeah. So that is, again, scan for those things during rehearsals because they may turn your presentation upside down without you even understanding that. And I have some scary stories when, like, there was a speaker who I very much respect that was constantly saying MDS, DQS, MDS, DQS, MDS,
And
DQS.
what does that
and I was
mean?
like, what is MDS and what is DQS? I feel stupid now. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening here? Which is not, you don't want to cause that kind of thoughts in people's heads, in your audience's heads, that they are stupid, right? So I started Googling what MDS and DQS are, but when you Google an abbreviation, I don't know for you, but many times I see a lot of options. And now I'm completely confused and stop listening. At the end, it was just like the only thing that this person needed to do is to start their presentation. And at some point when they first were referring MDS, to say, hey, MDS is Master Data Services. And when we talk about Master Data Services, this means yada, 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 right? This way, if they have done that, it was going to be way easier for me to kind of follow the whole presentation and the story that they were presenting. So yeah, very, very important. And DQS, by the way, stands for Data Quality Services. Anyway,
These are all very useful,
abbreviations.
all very useful terms that we all need to be
Aware
aware
of.
of.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're in the data management
Yeah,
world,
data world.
database management world.
Yeah,
That's
I would say
something
that
that you would
rehearsals
know.
are. Yeah, let's move on to something else that we marked in our notes. But I heard you saying something, and I was like, okay, let's move on to this one now. It is super important to rehearse a presentation, especially if you are not delivering it in your own native language.
Yeah.
Right? That is super crucial. If you are, for example, when I am about to be presenting in, let's say, the US or somewhere else, English is a foreign language. It's second language?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's a foreign language to me. So I spent a ton of time just rehearsing so that I am sure that what I'm saying won't offend anybody because of the way I pronounce it, right? So all of those things could be really tricky. So if you are presenting in a different language than your native one, spend the time to do that and spend the time focusing on rehearsing just because of that.
That's a very important point that you're making. What I also would advise you to do is to always ask the organizers of the event, if you are not aware and if it's not been specifically said, what is the language that you're going to be using. We've been at situations where people are told they need to present in a second language and they learn it the moment that they're about to go on stage.
Yeah.
Which is first extremely stressful, I would say. Even if the second language is at a good level, it's extremely stressful to have to rethink everything that you were about to say in your own language. So not just rehearse because you are speaking in a foreign language, always ask especially if it's not being specifically told the language that you're going to be using for your presentation.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I would agree with this. And one more thing that I probably need to say here in this episode, we started with the fact that you want to rehearse your presentation because of the brand that you represent. First of all, it's your own brand, and then the organization that you represent. The time that you are taking from the audience and the opportunities that may arise as a result of your presentation. And there is something in the world of psychology that's called the Hallow Effect, which is a very interesting thing. When I first read about it, I was like, I agree so badly with that stuff. It is scary. I mean, it is scary. So if you don't know what the Hallow Effect is, it is more or less people willing and tending to see how you perform in one place and immediately draw conclusions of how you perform in every other place, meaning based on what they're seeing. So what I mean by that is that if you see a speaker who is not well prepared, who is mumbling, who is just not caring about how they are doing this presentation, you immediately draw connections and say to yourself, or you may have said to yourself, maybe he or she is the same in their own work, right? I personally have done that. Like I have seen so many speakers that are just going on stage, doing some like very mediocre presentation, and I'm like, probably they're acting this way also in their daily life. Like
They might just not be such good specialists.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
That's
If
what
they're
you're
approaching
saying.
it this way, I'm sure they're not that good in what they do. Even though they may be, right? Even though they may be. So this Hallow Effect thing is, wow, if you don't know about it, read about it, and that's yet another reason why you want to be rehearsed, why you want to be prepared well, and that happens through rehearsals.
Yeah, and if you think about it, it gives you an overall confidence, because people are like, okay, so how can I gain more confidence when I go on stage and when I present? Well, you actually build that confidence through rehearsing. Something that we always tell our clients is when you present, you do it for the audience. That's a very, very important point. You do it for the audience, the people that are listening to and that are expecting to hear your ideas. So when you are delivering a presentation, you need to be there for them. By rehearsing, you gain more confidence, and that gives you time, it gives you space, it gives you brain space to be more present and to connect better with your audience, because you don't think about, okay, so what was I supposed to say on the next slide, or what was that point that I wanted to make but I didn't make. It's like all of these things you have already cleared up during presentations.
Yeah, you're able to react to some unexpected things.
That's also
way better when you are so well prepared. Okay, that is now 20 minutes in reasons why you want to spend
we're obviously very passionate about rehearsing, and that's why we always advise our clients to do that.
And we also rehearse with them. Even.
And we also rehearse with them. That's also an important point. So if that takes us 20 minutes to record a podcast, all of the things that you said around how to do some things in specific way, maybe we can do in the next episode.
Yeah, that will be my suggestion. So with that, I would kind of put an end to this episode. So we hope you now know our own opinion about the reason why and the reasons why you need to rehearse. And hopefully you are now convinced that that is important. We'll be happy to hear from you. If you have any comment, any feedback, shoot us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. Visit our website, 356labs.com and not 365labs.com. Whoever owns that domain, please call me. And to find out more about how presentations can help you or your business grow. And again, let us know what your experience was when you, for example, rehearsed very well. Like what happened as a result of that? Did you achieve what you were aiming to achieve? Thanks for listening, and in case you found this episode to be useful, subscribe to the podcast and why not even share it with a friend. See you in the next one.